You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Welcome to the Morning Startup Podcast, where we believe that having a full heart and clear mind builds the neural pathways that will awaken you to a healthier, joyful, and more successful life. I'm your host, Michael Oliver, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Dr. Deborah Dyack and Maria Gosher. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
So here we are in the Podcast Detroit studio in the Hangar Shared Workspace in downtown Northfield, Michigan, launching our very first episode of the Morning Startup. How cool is that?
I'm so excited.
It is.
I think I'm having a bit of a moment of joy here. You know, we talk about Mindtation as a company, right? That we really live in this space of joy, and we've experienced that as the three of us have gotten together and grown together. And for our listeners, being this very first episode, as we all have talked, I thought it was really good that we have an opportunity for them to get to know us a little bit better, and to get an idea about how we met, because the synergy between us is really unique. Most people that meet us and talk to us get excited about our journey here, and so I thought maybe we could start out talking a little bit about how we met. Deb, you and I really met together. It's like we're kindred spirits, right, from the beginning. Right. And then Maria joined in a very interesting way, and we'll have you talk about that shortly, and kind of just integrated into this whole experience, which is really cool. But you and I go back almost 30 years, don't we?
Yes. And I think the background of studying martial arts together is critical for the launching of this particular business, because we became involved with Ki, Chi, Prana, or life force, and that began moving us forward.
Yeah. So what's interesting is so I was at Wayne State University, where you were already working as an associate dean there. And I was in my graduate studies for my doctorate degree in instructional technology. And I was looking for a graduate
position. Right.
And you hired me.
Right.
So
Good choice, Chet.
And we did not know each other at all.
Right.
And we started this conversation. I really don't know how it started, but it started with intuition, really, something around the world of intuition and that kind of feeling. And then you walked in my office one day and you said, "How would you be interested in doing Tai Chi?" And I didn't even know I didn't. And I was like, Tai what? Like Tai Chi? And you said, "No, I'm going to a temple or a dojo right in Berkeley, and Sifu Brown was the teacher there." And I said, "Sifu." I mean, I even kind of screwed that name up as Sifu,
like seafood.
Right. But it's really teacher in Chinese, right?
Correct.
And so that's really where our journey, kind of in the field of, you mentioned martial arts, and this idea of energy manipulation, really started through that dojo and working with Tai Chi. And that's an area that you were deeply interested in.
Yeah, and I think it was just an affirmation of our intuition, what we had known, but then actually joining groups of people that believed or were like-minded. It was a great opportunity for us to develop.
Yep. And so we grew through that, and then as time went on, you ended up leaving Wayne State, and you went over to Schoolcraft College.
Correct.
Where you were a dean over there in the Learning Support Services area, and then I went into corporate work and doing the corporate thing, and then full circle again, I needed some work because that phased out of my life, and then you hired me over at Schoolcraft College.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
That was good.
So at Schoolcraft College, and actually that's where, Marie, you started around 2009? Is that?
I think so, yeah.
Right, around 2009, which is
10 years ago.
Which is really weird, is that, and we did not know each other.
No.
And that is the same time I got hired over at Schoolcraft.
Crazy.
Was in 2009. So, and you were hired in what was your actual area that you got
I
hired
was
into?
teaching at the time.
Okay.
So I was teaching computer graphics technology courses. And I remember my orientation was taught by Deb. And I remember like, oh my God, it's because she was teaching us how to like, teach and like activities and be engaging. I'm like, Deb is so good. I'm like so nervous. I'm going to like mess up. But
I didn't know you were in that.
Yeah.
Course.
It made
That's
such a big
interesting.
impact on me. So it's like just so crazy that like to hear that you were in this group. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was really cool.
So really interesting, right? You two were almost
Yeah.
familiar with each other, but not
Right.
knowing that years
Right.
down the road that we would
Yeah.
actually be
Working together.
be working
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So cool.
And I remember meeting you, Maria, for the first time because when I was working I was working for Deb, so we were in the library together, and you came in newly hired to talk about the web or something. Do you remember?
It's so weird. I don't remember that.
Yeah, you came in and you were talking, and Deborah was talking about how gifted you were, and he said, "Oh, you got to listen to her. She's really great. She's going to talk about this kind of web build or whatever the technology part of that was." And you came in and talking about that. So now, the three of us, not knowing that we were going to actually years later be working together, have already kind of made this introduction to each other, which
Maria's
is
kind of the glue.
Yeah.
She's the one that's going to launch us, help keep us out there.
Yeah.
So.
We're a good team.
Yeah, so that was very cool. So then I was working with student athletes and trying to keep them eligible and working on the academic side of things. And one of the things I was starting to notice, and mind you, through this whole time, Deb and I have always been staying involved in the martial arts and Tai Chi, and then we got involved in Uchiha Kung Fu and all the rest of it. But our focus has always been really on the inner work of that, the inner work, the spiritual work, the manipulation of energy and chi and all of that. And so through the martial arts, we were learning to do that. I'm working with athletes, and I'm noticing something in athletes is like, every time they're missing a pass on the court or they're missing the ball on the field or whatever it is, I'm thinking they're losing their focus and concentration. And through our training, it was like one of the things that I think could be really helpful for them is to teach them meditation. Because through that meditation process, you learn about focus and about mindfulness. And you were exploring that field as well. So I brought it to Deb, and there were a lot of little things that were happening here, but the bigger picture is Deb and I decided that we were going to kind of make a go of this. And I had asked Deb, like, well, what do we call us if we were going to try to do this not only at the junior college level, but if we were going to take it elsewhere? And Deb came up with the term Mindtation. That's how the company name was formed. And when I asked her, I go, that is so cool. Like, what were you thinking? And she says, well, when you think of mindfulness and meditation, she just put two together. So that was brilliant. So thank you for that. But anyway, so that's where Mindtation was actually born. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it grew out of a growing need to help people. And originally, as Michael said, it was to help the student athletes or students. But we realized that we were failing to address the humanistic skills in our educational system. And it only tends to focus on knowledge. So Michael and I were there to certainly help people who were underprepared coming to college, who needed skills development. But we also saw that we need to help humans develop these human skills that they're not even aware of, that many of our students, especially the athletes, would come in depressed, tired, tuned out, not realizing that pranayama or teaching breath techniques, teaching meditation, how to still the mind, could have such a profound impact on student success or actually life success. So that's where we began.
Yeah, that was the start of it. And then we started thinking about, well, we're going to need some web presence here. How are we going to do that? So bring it, then it's like, well, we know Maria. Like, Maria's in the marketing department. Like, Maria has this deep set of skills. And I don't really remember. I know that you were going to U of M.
Yeah.
And you're working on your master's at the time, right?
Yep.
But how is it that you and I had this conversation about the can you fill that space in for me a little bit?
It's a good question because
Yeah.
it seems like it just kind of happened. So I
Which
was
is
at
a lot of what happens. with
yeah,
us.
yeah. So I was at the University of Michigan School of Information, studying just human-computer interaction stuff, and basically that means anything interactive, websites or apps or anything. I'm a design nerd, so anything that's design, marketing, branding, information, data, all that kind of stuff just mixed together. And so in grad school, I had a lot of projects I had to do. And given that I paying out of pocket through school, trying to get it through, I'm not going to waste any of my money on doing just goofy projects. I'm going to do something that actually has meaning to me. And so that's kind of how, I think we did a couple projects during my grad experience where I helped you guys with a website. And then I just kind of stayed with you guys.
Yeah. So that was really interesting because this is really how I think it speaks to the synergy between us and how, this bond, I think, over time that we've created is unconventional in that sense. It wasn't this formal, like, hey, I'd like to work with you guys, and well, let's do kind of an interview to see if your skill sets are a good match. This really evolved more on an intuitive level. It really did. And I know that after you were doing your project for U of M, you were wireframing up the website and everything, and you were doing all the things that were required of that project. But we kept in touch after that. And it's like it even at one point, you were almost like an advisor to Mindtation, kind of like talking to us about our branding.
Keep it on track, move it forward.
And the beautiful thing was, too, is like you guys need to be doing things the right way so you don't have to redo things that you're not doing, and to have to fix later on. So who are you as a company? What is your branding? What is your messaging? I mean, those are all the things that you were teaching us. But at the same time, not knowing that that was actually you, right, who you are infusing into Mindtation.
Right.
Which later, looking back, we can say that happened, but at the time, like, it was almost unsuspecting, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting is timing is everything. I know that when we first started at Schoolcraft, bringing up the idea of meditation, we were laughed at and told, don't use that word, use the word reflection. And you can tell, most of you now, the times have changed. Meditation
it's more mainstream
has
now,
respect,
right?
because modern science has begun to recognize what ancient mystics and wise men have told us for centuries, that we now have the data to support all of the good things that good breathing and meditation can do. But I know for years it was dismissed, and that was a frustrating thing because it had the connotation of being flaky, when we know that, or religious also in Buddhism, and we know that it's secular. It has nothing to do with religion, but religions use the techniques because they work. They change lives in a positive way. So I think that there's a realization now that as we move forward with this, because of the research supporting it, because it's now being taught to children in K through 12, that it is making a difference in lives.
We can see it more mainstream, too. It's like it's becoming mainstream. So like with the birth of the apps,
But that's been in the last 5 years. I mean, when we started, it was not really mainstream.
Well,
or accepted.
I totally agree with you.
Right, but now
we had a lot
it's
of barriers thrown up, and we had a lot of barriers. And even now, though, I think some of the barriers to meditation are that people are put in that position. Well, not put in that, they put themselves in the position of saying, well, I really can't do this. I've talked to a number of people that will say, when I sit still, my mind races 1,000 miles an hour. I think of all these things. I just can't get it done. And I often say to them, well, do you go to the gym and all of a sudden you walk out with a different body image, or do you walk out feeling really differently? No, it's like anything else, right? It takes time in order to build the skills, because meditation is a skill, right? I mean, it isn't something you just intuitively do.
You know, people make it sound like it's the easiest thing you'll ever do. Just sit down and close your eyes and think of nothing. And it's probably the most difficult or challenging thing you'll ever do in your life.
And you'll never clear your mind. I find it really unless you're a monk in a temple that's been doing this.
Nothingness is the goal.
Right.
Right. But it's hard.
But when you say to people in the beginning, it's just clear your mind, and they go, well, I can't clear my mind. It's like, because that brings us to mindfulness, right? Mindfulness isn't about clearing your mind.
No, it's about being aware of where you are at.
At the time you're
Right.
there. So I find that whole process really interesting, and that's where we really have grown in that whole space. And you have found an interesting kind of growth in that whole area too, right, Maria? As you kind of got more integrated with meditation and
I'm learning from like the best here, like, because I don't have a background in this stuff. Like, I've always been interested in it. I'm like one of those people like, oh yeah, meditation, I used to do that, and I did it for like 30 seconds. I'm like, what in the world am I doing? But I've always been interested in it, but I never really knew how to learn it or grow upon it, like the whole concept of breath, which is like, duh, Maria, like, how did you not realize that it was so important in meditation? That was something that I learned and still learning just by, working within meditation. So it's, I have interest in design and all that stuff I bring here, but there's this like learning back of just how to live just better and at a more calm and peaceful, environment within yourself. And that is, I think, the strongest thing that attaches me here. And it's cool because it's just, we're such a diverse group here.
Yeah.
Right,
and it's a
right.
good model that anyone can do this.
And what I think is wonderful is that you don't need the background research. It's great, it's there, but you know how you feel
Right.
when you're done. So that qualitative data that gets dismissed, which I think is the most important data, does it change your life? Do you feel better as a result? Do you have more energy as a result? And yes.
Yep. And like what Michael said earlier is that it doesn't happen, instant.
Right.
You got to keep practicing it and stick with it.
You're not going to win a marathon just by getting up and running. You have to lead up to it, and exercise and do the right techniques. But there are techniques that we are amazing instruments when you think that we have the 100% ability to heal ourselves and to change our lives and to create our future, what we hope and intend.
And I think a lot of that's framed in mindset, right? I mean, it's fascinating, extremely fascinating to me is what are the things that we're telling ourselves or what have we been told that we accept into a belief system that then drives our outcomes? Because when you say that, Deb, seriously, when you say that we have the ability to heal ourselves, there's going to be pushback on that, right, or opposition to that. But yet there's data to support
it now.
And science to support that happens, which I think is a really important piece.
It is.
But I think it's also kind of like shattering those belief systems and rebuilding others so that we can move forward into the work that we do. Right?
I think it's important for people to understand if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. So that's very powerful. And helping people overcome that. I just have a couple of the benefits, and obviously I have a list here. These are just a few of the benefits from meditation, pranayama, and also sound therapy. Just recently we are taking a deeper dive into sound, and I'm recently a licensed vibrational sound bowl therapist. And it is amazing to me that how it connects with meditation and how it connects with breathing, but it actually has the ability to change our cells. The chromosomes, there's little endings on the end of our chromosomes, and it helps, I guess, I'm going to make them analogous to a shoelace, the little plastic ending, the little caps at the end. And what happens with these chromosomes, if you are stressed out, and they're called telomeres, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I think it's telomeres, that if you are stressed out or as you age, they become frayed. And as you begin to practice breathing, relaxing, taking control of your thoughts, they begin to heal. And so the your own DNA begins to repair itself. And here are just some more amazing benefits. Improves reaction to stress, enhances creativity, improves focus, improves interpersonal skills, a sense of connectedness, reduces errors, clear thinking, improves teamwork, enhances writing, improves decision making, increased blood circulation, increased immunity, decreases depression and anxiety, and increases self-actualization. And those are just a few of the many.
It's kind of scratching the surface of it all.
Exactly.
And you know what I like about this, and this is one of the things that when we talk about creating a culture, a lot of people that we talk to in our own circles, because we are a startup, and the things that you're talking about, Deb, are things that we're looking at even building on as a company and being able to help other people with the things that they're struggling with or the things that they want to change or make a difference in their lives. But fundamentally, it's what we operate on as a company, is that we practice what we are talking about. We're all meditators. We practice mindfulness. Our meetings are phenomenal. I mean, they are. And of course, I say that, and it's like, well, yeah, but I talk to people that go to meetings, and they say they suck. You know, they go like, yeah, meetings I go to suck. I don't even know why we have them. Or meetings are a waste of time. I don't know why I'm there. But they're in the meetings. So we're in our meetings. But I can say that they're really phenomenal because we allow for that expression. We allow for the shifting. We allow for non-judgment. We just, I think the key word there is we just allow. What I'm getting at is supporting to what you're saying is the things that we're venturing into as a company, right, to help better the lives of other people by using the latest research in sound, in meditation, in mindfulness, in energy, in the human energy system, that we also incorporate that in terms of a company. So when we're sharing with people about who we are, right, who we are as individuals, the Maria, the Deb, the Michael, that we're the founders of Mindtation, that we're actually also practicing the very things that we're teaching other people, right? That it's part of our culture, and that we honor that, and we honor what each other can bring into that culture.
It's learning to live and actually live an undivided life, and that goes back to Parker Palmer. It's living your beliefs and not separating them. And in education, when we first began, I think the awareness is that we do separate the humanistic skills from the academic, the cognitive skills. And we know that human beings don't work that way, that in order to learn more effectively, you have to feel good about yourself. You can't be immersed in fear or feeling sick. So living an undivided life, I think, is what our truth is, and I guess one of our bonuses.
Yeah. I think it's important that we continue to do that, and we continue to build our culture. What do you find most interesting, Maria? Like when you, as this kind of, I know it's interesting because like you come in as kind of the on the tech, the marketing, the branding side of it. But I also can say for sure by getting to know you as well as I have, and I think I can speak for Deborah too, that there's this whole birth on this other side of you with your intuition and your experience in tapping those areas within yourself that give you joy, and then bringing that into the company as well. I think it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a learning experience. I mean, coming from a place of learning about marketing, I've been in quite a few different startup experiences myself, different accelerators where the focus is like very, very intense and you have to succeed and you have to do it this way, otherwise you're a failure. And failure is good, just kidding. No, failure is bad. This back and forth argument. And so I think when I first, years and years ago, when I was doing like the projects for, Mindtation and internship, I was in a space where it was like kind of absorbing that messaging. and that I have to, not to say that I'm like 100%, it's a work in progress for sure, but, I was in this space, I got to work constantly, and I have to do it this way and that, and the culture says to do this, and the industry says I have to, market this way or whatnot. And then working here and having our like weird meetings where it's like, oh my gosh, this is just so, there's no resistance, there's no stress. I mean, we run into obstacles, of course, but we figure it out. Like there's always that trust that it always works out. And I know we'll share those stories in future episodes of the podcast, but it's just like amazing, like jaw dropping, like how does this even work out? And so that, kind of just living and working, that undividedness, it's not like work is over here and then living is over here. Yep. The values of just, that mindfulness and all the stuff that we practice here is just, it's not just a thing that you set aside, but it's something that you incorporate in everything that you do. And so I think that's changed a lot in just my own work, is that I realize I don't really want to work in this kind of style that was kind of taught to me.
Right.
I understand myself more and how I want to live better, and that's the way I want to kind of
holistic.
Go. Yes,
Right.
Holistic. Absolutely.
Holistic, absolutely. You don't separate yourself, compartmentalize yourself. And I think one of the key words that you said is that we're all works in progress.
Yeah.
It isn't something that is going to happen. And I think, Michael, you said this earlier. It is something that you develop. It doesn't just happen overnight, and it's ongoing forever. And it goes deeper and deeper, and your commitment to it gets stronger as you see the results.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, it does get stronger. Yeah.
I find we had talked about this, not online here, but offline. We've talked about the culture that we're building here, and it's a culture that I think that we can really help others really learn to build a culture, not only as a startup, in talking about what that means, but the idea that I find it very interesting, and I know that you're going to resonate this, and our listeners probably will resonate with this too, that as you get into your week, you start getting excited, really excited that you're getting there Friday. It's like, and they even came up with, thank goodness it's Friday, right? TGIF.
Yeah, right,
they came up with that acronym, and it's like they're really excited about Friday, and the energy levels increase that it's Friday, and then you go through Saturday. Then when you hit Sunday, there's people that actually get depressed. They're actually feeling sad that and you'll say, like, what's going on? It's like, well, I just got work tomorrow. Got to go to work. It's Monday. It's Monday. And I don't want to, I don't want Mindtation to ever be like that. And it's not like that. But it's like to be fired up every day and almost like feeling like, oh my God, it's Friday. Like, can we meet Saturday? Can we do something on Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah.
Or looking, and I know when we text each other, right, the three of us, when we're texting each other about what we're going to do for the weekends, because we meet on the weekends, it's like super excited for Saturdays. Who's excited on a Sunday? I mean, we are. So right? So I think that it's interesting to explore that a little bit deeply when we talk about infusing joy. I mean, one of the things on our description of the show for today was to talk about, the fundamentally function is that we do this joyfully, and that we that we infuse joy. Not only goes back to what you said, Deb, about the undivided self, right? It's like, and joy, typically we're attaching things external to ourselves, but it's not, is it? It's about having that internal joy.
Tapping into it. Yes.
And so here's the challenge for all, even listening, is how do you do that? Right? How do you move through? And I know that's a different episode. And I know we'll get there, right?
That's a good question.
But how do you move through that barrier of you're feeling excited as you get close to Friday? I actually know some people that won't do anything on Sunday because they just need that little bit more time before they hit Monday,
Oh, and how sad.
Right.
How sad.
How sad missing a day when you could have that joy every day, to carry that peace and calm into your workspace and into your life, and that's how it should be.
And
your work shouldn't be so.
It shouldn't,
separate.
and so of course there's a lot of variables involved in that, right? The culture that we all live in, the cultures that we experience in our work cultures, and all of that type of thing, certainly. But even we know the monks, and you don't have to be a monk, but the people that are practicing these practices are able to be in that place among the chaos.
Always.
Yeah. Joy isn't an absence of obstacles. It's just.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And that's what has been separated for whatever reason from our formal education, which is very sad. I see that it's starting to reconnect. And I don't know whether it happened when the church and state separated, that anything to do with emotions or the spiritual part of a human being can't be taught in school and was separated, pulled out of it. But we do need to change. And I know that what we're doing isn't working necessarily in our K through 12, and there's a realization of this. So I think we're getting back to what we've always known intuitively, that we have to work with the whole student and not separate.
And hopefully we can bring that even, we do want to make that impact in education. I mean, we're in that educational space, but then how do we transfer that also to the workspace or to professionals as well, so people can, because our position is that when you're in that place of joy, you can get things done. Look at what we've done as a company.
It's crazy.
And I know that our listeners out there, I mean, they're getting to know us now. This is our first, they're our first podcast. They're getting to know us. We've been living this for well over 3, 4, going on almost 5 years now. We've been living this, right? But we've been growing within it. But we're living proof. And I know that our listening audience has to trust that. But the idea is that by being joyful and excited, amazing things begin to happen, and amazing things begin to line up that you may not even expect that to happen. And as we go on in further podcasts and other things that we're doing, and we can almost create this expectation that we'll share what those synchronizations have been for us, because this is our first one, and we're not going to go deep into it now. But the synchronizations happen, and just as they happen for us, they can happen for everyone out there listening.
And I would just say, I would encourage people to try, just to try. If you are a teacher, or if you are a leader in a business where you are leading people and have the opportunity to create your agenda, that you do provide students or employees, people, with even just 5 minutes of quiet. And I know that's not real meditation, but I know that Michael and I, when we were teaching, we offered that to our students. And I thought at first that students would dismiss it, find it flaky. I had students tell me at the end of the class, and there was no need, grades were already disseminated, they would come to me and say that was the favorite part of their class. That it was the only time in the day, and how sad, because that's only 5 to 10 minutes, where they were able to just tune everything out and feel calm. And I encourage you to try it, because what's interesting, I hear from other teachers, I don't have time to do that. Actually, as a result of doing it, your classrooms will be, and your employees will be far more productive when they are in a joyful, calm space.
Oh, so true. Because that's how we work here, is we get so much stuff done, and because we're in joy.
Yeah.
But yeah, even like to, with the students, even like parents and families, I think could do that. There's so many parents are on the go, working a lot or doing a lot at home and taking care of kids and stuff, and that I think would be a powerful thing just in the household environment, to just kind of embrace silence, just for a little bit, even just a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
And I think in the chaos of a lot of people's lives, what the misinterpretation of that is that if they do pause, that they'll lose time, right? Because they got so much to do. Like everybody has so much to do. Yeah. So I pause, I'm going to lose some time. But what we find out, and what the research has supported, is that when you slow down, you actually speed up. And when you slow down to give that 10, 15 minutes even, that you come out of that space with much more energy and clarity,
Exactly.
it's then when you can function a lot more effectively, and you're not so crowded with your thoughts and your thinking.
Absolutely. John Kabat-Zinn is obviously with one of the leaders in mindfulness. And in schools, he says that we are constantly telling students to pay attention, but we never really teach students how to pay attention. They don't know what you mean. Does it mean look harder? Listen to what? And so through this calm and taking just a few minutes to have students experience quiet, they do develop a stronger focus, which allows them to learn how to pay attention.
And I think it's those small steps that really help to build the habit of drawing into that space and time. I think sometimes people try to take a big chunk of it, and then they don't have that positive experience, and then it's reinforced in the negativity, and then they don't want to do it. I heard a great podcast this morning about building habits, and the way that it was suggested to build habits was to start, and we've heard about chunking. I mean, that's nothing new. But the idea is that that you do to baby steps. Like I'm thinking of Ramsey and baby steps, right?
Yeah.
But you're thinking of doing these baby steps. You're doing them very short. And even so, for example, if you wanted, you could use meditation example or something. I mean, if you do, if you say, for instance, I want to learn to be able to do this. Well, just sit in a chair for 1 minute. Don't do anything but that. Or just sit in the chair. Pull the chair out and sit in the chair. Yeah. Once you're sitting in the chair, you're done, right? And then, okay, now I'm going to sit in the chair, and I'm going to sit in the chair for 1 minute. I'm not going to think about my breathing. I'm not going to think about closing my eyes, raising my – I'm just going to sit in the chair for a minute. But it's those steps that you can build into more of that into that practice.
Yeah, it's like makes me think of the classic, the tortoise and the hare, right? Like the tortoise is like step by step, hare just like wants to speed and ends up not even getting at the finish line.
That's the joy of working with you. I just have to say, because I think that was one of the biggest aha moments for me in developing this business. Is I just assumed that faster was better. That if we were going to launch something, we need to do it next week. And if we created a product, we need to get the product out immediately. And I think that's what you've taught us, and I really appreciate it. And for anybody else who's out there trying to create a new business, is sometimes slower is better. It allowed us to, I guess, prevent a lot of mistake making. So I appreciate.
Yeah, I learned that from others. So
well, I'll second that with you as well, because I mean, one of the things, Maria, that you brought, I think, has been extremely valuable and continues to be very valuable for us. And this is the beauty of the synergy between us, because we're so diverse in so many ways. But we complement each other in so many ways because we allow for that to happen. But even in with your experience with startups and bringing that to us and then being part of this and helping us develop this was the idea of like, often people would say to us, well, how's Mindtation doing, right? Because they don't see anything. There's nothing public-facing they don't see.
Yeah.
We're working our tails off on this side of it. But Maria would be like, well, we need to get our branding right. We need to have people understand who we are. You need to know – and there's a lot to that. I mean, I never knew – and those of you who are in the marketing branding business understand this. Well, we didn't. Until Maria brought it to our attention, but there's a lot of work that goes into that, from typography to colors and all of that. Who are we? And then what is our brand? And then what is our strategy to launching your brand so people get to know who you are? Because if people don't know who you are, then how are they ever going to be influenced by what you are offering them? So I second what Deb is saying, but I really appreciate that, because you slowed us down enough to be able to put all those pieces in place, and now we're accelerating like crazy, where we're asking ourselves about even managing that, because it's beginning to pick up pace, but we're getting all those pieces in place. So I really appreciate that as well.
What a great foundation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to topple over now.
Right.
A solid base.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a mix too, like, because you guys are you've taught me so much about just trusting your intuition and things. I mean, we've gotten to points where it's like we're feeling the pressure, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then you guys will say, like, how do we feel? And then we'll be like, major anxiety right now. We're going to launch something tomorrow morning. And then we stop, and then we pause, and we pivot if we have to. And we've always been open to that if we have to pivot and change direction. And so I think we all kind of bring something to the table on that front.
And that's never been a part of what I've been taught in business, is to pivot. You don't pivot, you move forward. But I found there's such a strength in that. As I said, you saved us from many disasters. So it's greatly appreciated.
One of the things you taught us, Maria, which is really so powerful, is that we came up with our one-liner.
Oh, yeah. We kind of learned that all together.
Who would have thought a one-liner would be so difficult?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was hours to get to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, 5-6 hours of pretty heavy cognitive work to get there, and a lot of neural work. But the beautiful thing about that is that we, the one-liners we know through the story brand work, right, is that if you confuse, you lose, right?
Yep.
And that
Don Miller work.
the Don Miller work, and that clarity is where we need to be, right? So we don't want to confuse, and we want to be clear. And so we were able to come up with our one-liner, which is
you're going to share it?
Yeah, I'll share it.
Very
So,
good. Very good.
Mindtation provides achievable experiences that help people live awake with a full heart and clear mind. That's really, out of all those hours and hours and hours, that gets pulled out, and it really defines and says, yes, who we are. And achievable experiences were important to us because, right?
Yeah, that was a big word.
That was
pointed out. Yeah,
that was a big word.
Absolutely.
And we did that together. And Deb, you came out with the idea we have to make these experiences achievable, or we're going to lose people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's real. The techniques are very simple, but they are effective, and the techniques work. They make a difference.
And can you speak to the idea about living awake and tie that into the full heart and clear mind piece?
It's kind of going back to what you were saying, where people work for the weekends, that they are not present Monday through Friday. They're there for work, but they're not present, meaning they're not feeling joy. They're not enjoying their life, which when you think out of a year how much people are gone, that's depressing. We want to be present every day and enjoy every moment. And what we're finding right now is that people are asleep. They put themselves into a coma-like state, and then they live for the weekends. But exactly what you said, they don't want to do anything on Sunday because it means they have to totally relax and not be present again. So being awake is being aware of your life, of what's going on around you, of what you're capable of, and reaching potential, because so many of us are just going through the motion, but we're not really achieving potential, what we could in our lives. We don't realize we can make intentions to change our life. The magic within us is we're trying to help people unlock that.
Yeah, I think that's key. That you hit it right there. I mean, how many times do people drive to work and go, how did I get here?
Exactly.
Right. Have you ever been on a weekend where you want to take a different route to go somewhere, and you turn the route that you go to work and you go, oh my God, I didn't want to go this way?
It was automatic.
It was just automatic.
Pilot.
So you're not really you're not awake, quote unquote, in that point. But I like the idea of what you're saying about we have so much in
potential.
And this is where we're going to lead into, as we kind of wrap up today. And I'm hoping that folks got a sense of who and what we are and what we're about. There's a lot more to come with this. Like this idea about, Deb, what you talked about unlocking. There's so much potential within ourselves that we're just not aware of, and we're just in this fog.
And isn't that frustrating? Why haven't we been taught those humanistic skills?
So that's the clarity, right, that we're looking for. And the full heart is the passion piece, right, to be passionate and to have a full heart into what we do and have the clarity in order to do it and to be present in order to do that.
Compassion and connectedness. We're so disconnected in our society right now. So,
and then when we do that, then we get the outcomes that we're really desiring. Wouldn't you think so?
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like, and I've been in these moments. Sunday, I don't want to do anything because new work week,
Right.
But if you kind of reflect on that, you can kind of see, if you kind of wake up a little bit and be like, oh, why am I so stressed about the new work week? And it's because, you're not living with a full heart and clear mind all the time.
Exactly.
And so, I think everyone has that kind of hunger in them. They just don't know it yet.
Right.
So
So stay tuned because there's going to be – we have got so many exciting things to share that I think that as we roll into 2020, we're gonna have you get really excited about the upcoming things that we're going to be sharing with you. Our episode 2 will be coming up. It's going to be on December 22nd. Probably going to be – we're going to record it on the 22nd, and we'll have a release shortly after that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about these key pieces of what helps Mindtation grow. But what you'll find is that these key pieces are going to be an integral part into what you can incorporate into your life to have clarity, to have a full heart, and to live awake. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned and make sure you come back and see us. So thanks for listening to the Morning Startup Podcast, where we believe that having a full heart and clear mind builds the neural pathways that will awaken you to a healthier, joyful, and more successful life.